Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Wrestling Doesn't Make Sense. It's a show where me and John talk about pro wrestling and whether or not it makes sense or not. And this week, I'm going to say probably doesn't, because we're talking about the annual WWE Draft. Is it an annual thing?
Oh, well, it's pretty much an annual thing, yeah.
Yeah, since they have the brand split, now they have to do a draft every so often to keep things fresh. Keep people on their toes, which I think is literal because they don't tell the people on the draft like who's being drafted until they watch the show.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which is an interesting way to do business.
Yeah, I mean, wrestling is it's actually scripted, so I don't see why they wouldn't actually let people or the people who need to know that in advance.
Well, I think then you get your genuine reactions. That's the idea. They're trying to treat it like it really is still a shoot, as they say in the business.
But then they don't even show the people when they announce them most of the time, so
that is true. That is true. The people will probably just complain about it on Twitter afterward because that's what people do.
That's what Twitter's for.
Exactly. It's for complaining about stuff, right?
Yeah.
Boy, do people have a lot to complain about.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Understandably so, because everything sucks. Speaking of everything sucking, we kind of mentioned this a little bit last time where we mentioned, was it the Hit Row guys had been called up to SmackDown?
That's correct.
Which surprised me live on air. So that was a surprise. That was a real genuine reaction. I was like, what the fuck? Feel free to go back and listen to last week's episode if you want to. If you haven't already, I don't know why you haven't. You busy pricks, But so the full draft has happened now. We have a clearer idea of where people have gone and how the rosters look. And what do you think? Do you think there's been a big shakeup, or is it just a thing that happened?
I think the problem with these drafts is they end up moving too many people. So, like, the goal is to kind of, freshen up the rosters and give us fresh matches as well. But then they end up moving too many people from Raw to SmackDown and vice versa. So you still end up with a lot of the same people on the same brands.
Just different colors.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a bit ineffective. But I'd say looking at how this year's draft is shaken out, the Raw side of things seems to have got the better deal, and SmackDown looks like it's a bit short-handed, I guess, compared to Raw as well. So it's kind of interesting to see that that's all happened, especially with the reports of NBC and Fox being quite competitive and wanting the best for their respective shows as well. So the idea that SmackDown's kind of taken a bit of a hit from this draft, you can't imagine the executives at Fox are going to be, too thrilled about that.
Yeah, it must be really hard running a wrestling program whenever you have to just do whatever the networks tell you. That's difficult, I imagine. I tell you what, though, SmackDown did pretty well when it comes to the women.
Yeah.
They got 2 women's champions.
Well, no, they've only got one.
Did they not get Charlotte?
They've got Charlotte, but Becky Lynch has gone to Raw.
Well, how are they going to do that with the championships? Are they going to swap them around like they did with the tag team?
I imagine that's probably going to be what they do if they don't lose those titles beforehand, because there's the actual draft itself, even though it's all done and set in stone now, it doesn't properly kick in until the October 22nd SmackDown, the sort of day after Crown Jewel. So at the moment, they're still free to kind of go across to Raw and SmackDown and appear on both shows and whatnot. So I was going to say as well, there's a SmackDown Women's Championship match at Crown Jewel as well. So there's an option there for Bianca Belair, or I guess Sasha
Yeah.
Banks. She's the only one still on SmackDown to take back the title.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I'm like, didn't Raw draft Bianca Belair as well?
Yep.
So that kind of, you could say, doesn't make any sense.
Well, I mean, it does in the sense that Bianca and Becky are involved in this feud that's been going on since SummerSlam. So, I mean, it's a feud that doesn't feel like it's resolved yet. So they got to finish up that unfinished business that they've had going on for a while. But yeah,
I dig them finishing a feud, but I'm like, the swapping of championships like this and then drafting those two people to Raw while they're in a feud, you're like you said, it doesn't feel like anything has changed. If they were feuding when they were on SmackDown and then they've both been drafted to Raw in the middle of their feud, if they end the feud now, that's silly because they're still in the same brand anyway.
Yeah.
They may as well continue the feud. At least if they were on separate brands, then you could end the feud at Crown Jewel, and that would make sense. If they thought that far ahead. But the idea of the swapping of championships itself is stupid, because this happened last year, I think, or whenever the last draft was, when the Street Profits and the New Day were the Raw and SmackDown tag team champions, and they got drafted to the opposite team or the opposite brand, and so they just swapped championships. They just said, oh, because we're on Raw, we should have the Raw tag team championships, and you guys should have the SmackDown tag team championships, so here you go. I'm like, is that how that works?
Yeah.
You just swap them around like that?
And can you imagine the uproar if Charlotte does this and then she gets an extra, reign as SmackDown Women's Champion then, which she's not actually won a match for? Oh, God. People will be angry.
As if they're not already angry with Charlotte Flair.
Yeah.
Because despite the fact that she's in like the longest title reign of her career, surely, right?
Well, it's lasted over 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
You gotta say that's pretty good work for Charlotte Flair. I mean, she's an 86-time champion already. Or something. She loses and wins the belt back so quickly. It's weird how they do the kind of the quick changes with Charlotte Flair over everybody else, because Charlotte Flair is like one of the most legit women's wrestlers on that and in the entire company, and yet they do the quick title changes with her more than anybody else.
And you can say the same for Sasha Banks as well. She doesn't seem to get a long reign every time she wins the title.
Well, her going into WrestleMania, I thought that was the best she's ever looked.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But again, like, she hasn't had, like, part of those quick changes were with Charlotte, right? And that would work if it had just happened with Charlotte and Sasha in that feud, right? That would have worked. But Charlotte has swapped the belts with people so quickly, other people, not just Sasha, like loads of other people. And you're like, this is, that in itself. I like the idea of a quick title change every so often, because it keeps interest, and a lot of the title reigns are so long anyway.
Yeah.
People say that the WWE hotshot their belts, but for the most part, recently, the last couple of years, they've done pretty well at like having lengthy title reigns for most people. Right? There's been a couple odds like exceptions, like the Miz or whatever, but like those are usually just little exceptions, whereas the rest of the title reigns are usually pretty lengthy, right?
Yeah.
But for Charlotte, for some reason, she could just never hold on to that belt. She's like Edge. You ever look at how many times Edge has held the belt? What, 11-time champion or something?
Yeah, something like that.
And like the longest he's ever held it for is like a month. You know what I mean? Like, that sucks. And it's very similar with Charlotte. So like, it doesn't do a whole lot whenever Charlotte's usually switching the belt with so many people so quickly, and then also is now just swapping the belt with like whoever the other champion is. You know what I mean? For the sake of sticking with branding, because it shows like how useless the branding is if you can just swap the belts like that. Like like kind of like what you said, in that a lot of the people are on the same brands anyway, regardless of the draft. So it kind of negates the purpose of it. It also negates the purpose if the belts themselves that are specific to those brands seem interchangeable.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is the fact that, and I know people have complained about this before, the fact that the belts all look the same. Like the women's championships are the same except for the color.
Yeah.
And the same with the heavyweight championships. It's the same, and they guess the tag team titles as well are the same except for the color. And you're like, well, I liked it better whenever you could recognize which championship was which other than the color. You know, like the big gold belt looked different from the universal, or the whatever it was, what was the other belt called? I guess this is the WWE Championship.
Yeah.
But like you could, and then the problem was once they started swapping those around, you know, because I always associate the big gold belt with SmackDown, but sometimes it was on Raw.
Yeah, well, it was officially introduced to WWE on Raw, wasn't it? When Triple H was awarded it by Eric Bischoff.
Yeah, exactly. It soon means that the belts themselves become, I don't want to say irrelevant, but they're like, well, what's the point?
Yeah, well, I think there's definitely a sense of that. Like championships have been sort of diminished over the years, and they don't mean as much as they did once. So yeah, and like you say, the design of them being so similar and so interchangeable, that kind of makes it so none of them stand out. Or you think back, I mean, we've talked about some of our favorite belts before, like a few years ago, I think it was. Yes. But think back at some of the best looking championships, and they all, they pop, they visually look awesome and stand out, and the kind of thing, you'd be proud to walk down the street wearing around your waist and like saying, hey, look at me. But not anymore. So yeah, it's kind of a sad state of affairs.
But isn't it funny that it's got to the point where now the belts look very clunky and very easy to replicate as toys, I suppose.
Yeah.
But, like they don't have the same kind of prestige. They don't look like championship belts anymore, right?
No.
But at the same time, like you said, they don't look like belts you would want to proudly walk around town wearing to show that you are the champion. And yet, since they've introduced these new belts, they have never handed out so many belts to like sports teams and other shit like that, right? They're actively sending replicas of these belts out to other fucking people, but it's of these belts. It's not of the other belts.
Yeah.
They didn't do this before with the big gold belt or the eagle belt or whatever. It's with these clunky ones that normal people wouldn't want to wear. But if you ask people, if you say, look through these wrestling belts, which one would you want to wear? They're going to say the big gold belt or the winged eagle or the old Intercontinental Championship, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're not going to say that big fucking W one. The one with the big W on it. Because what does that stand for? It stands for WWE, right? It's too obvious.
Yes. Yeah. And I guess it plays into the whole idea that WWE is the brand now. Like they don't really want superstars getting too big or relying too heavily on certain superstars, I guess, when the WWE itself is like the money maker, where it's like it's not Hulk Hogan's coming to town, it's WWE's coming to town, and that's why you should go out and watch the show.
I mean, I don't think Hulk Hogan is as much of a draw as you think he is these days.
No, not these days.
I think his heyday is long past. I feel like people have seen through the Hulk Hogan facade. May I just interject and say, while I don't particularly like the fact that the branding is super obvious on the big WWE belts, at least none of their belts say, "Oh, Fox TV Championship." Right? Am I the only one that thinks that that's ridiculous? Because let me tell you this: and whenever AEW came up with the TNT Championship, because they were on TNT, the TV channel, I didn't associate it with TNT, the TV channel, because their TV show is called Dynamite.
Ah, fair enough.
And TNT is like a form of dynamite. You've seen it in the cartoons. You little plunger, right? That's what I thought it was. I thought it was, it's a riff on explosions and dynamite, right?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of wordplay going on there.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And then they came up with the fucking, what was the new one? TBS?
Yep.
And you're like, you gotta be taking the piss now. The TBS Championship. Like, how stupid does that sound?
Well, I mean, it sounds stupid calling it the TNT Championship when they obviously never considered the fact that they wouldn't be on TNT anymore.
Right. Then after they introduced that, they were like, we got a new deal. We're going to move channels in like the next year. And like, oh, fuck. Now what do we do? But again, like if it's like the TNT, like Dynamite Championship, like that kind of works. But the TBS Championship will only work if you're on TBS.
Yes.
If they move again, they're going to have to rename that. That's so, and it would be the women's belt as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Fucking clowns. Anyway, we're talking about the draft. We're talking about the draft. There'll be plenty of time to talk about AEW in the future. Trust me, guys. You want to stick around for that. But at the moment, we're talking about the draft. Not only were we talking about the women's championship being kind of, but like interchangeable, which is a shame because, I'm a big fan of women's wrestling and I like them to take it seriously. But going along with the draft and to go along with the idea of women's wrestling, the WWE, of course, have their women's tag team championships. They thought it was a smart idea to introduce 2 women's tag team championships. I don't think that's a good idea because they didn't do a very good job with the first set.
Nope.
And the second set looks questionable at best. But we're going to focus on the first set for now. Most of, the end of last year and beginning of this year, those tag titles were held by Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. A thrown together tag team because they don't have any real tag teams.
Yeah.
In the WWE Women's Tag Team division.
Not anymore.
No, well, that tag team is now split. And probably for the best because fuck Nia Jax.
Yeah.
Shayna Baszler is amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at least it gave Shayna Baszler something to do. They lost the belts to Natalya and Tamina Snuka, a thrown together tag team, because of course there are no tag teams in the WWE Women's division. And that tag team lost the belts to the thrown together tag team of Rhea Ripley and Nikki ASH. And they thrown together tag team, of course, because there are no tag teams in the WWE Women's division. And it seemed like there was going to be a match between Tamina and Natalya and the newly formed team, a thrown together team, I might add, because of course there are no real tag teams in the WWE tag team division, of Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Nox, who were brought up from NXT and just put together in a tag team, despite the fact that Shotzi Blackheart was in a tag team with Ember Moon in NXT. They were like, fuck that. Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Nox are now in a tag team. And it seemed like that was going to be a match for the tag titles, which makes sense. I mean, if you're going to throw those 2 teams together, it makes sense to actually have those teams fight each other.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? That makes sense. But of course, we're here to talk about things that don't make sense. So let's do that. In the draft, those 2 teams both got split up. Now, again, they were thrown together tag teams because, of course, there are no tag teams in the WWE Women's Tag Team division. But to put those tag teams together and then to just split them again because the reason those tag teams were put together to begin with is because those women weren't doing anything on their own. Like, Tamina sure as fuck wasn't, right? Natalia can kind of slot her way into a lot of different storylines. She's versatile. She can go, right?
Yeah.
But you know, Tamina wasn't doing a whole lot. So the idea of them being a tag team, I thought was stupid. But if they could do it, fair enough. And to just split them up for no reason doesn't make any sense when they don't have any other tag teams. And then to not only split that tag team up, but then to split up Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Nox before they even got a chance to do anything.
Yeah.
Is ridiculous. Why put them together?
Well, I will say, to give WWE an excuse, the fact that Natalia got injured, like pretty much right after they brought up Shotzi and Tegan Nox, and basically they couldn't really follow up on the initial like victory that they got over the women's tag team champions. So maybe that played its part, and then by the time Natalia was healthy again, they shifted their focus over to
some other bullshit team.
Yeah. So I guess Shotzi and Tegan just got lost in the shuffle a little bit because of that, but even still, it seems like a wasted opportunity.
Lost in the shuffle so much that they split the team up completely. Let me tell you this, or let me ask you this. I've asked you this before. If you had Shayna Baszler in your wrestling company, would you have lumbered her in a tag team with Nia Jax?
Oh, God, no.
No. If you have Rhea Ripley in your women's division, are you going to bring her up to the main roster and then after a few months put her in this weird makeshift tag team?
I mean, definitely not.
No, and this is not a knock against Nikki Cross because we both love Nikki Cross. She's so good at what she does, and Rhea Ripley is amazing too. But like, why? Why would they do this?
I guess there's only so many spots in the women's division on both Raw and SmackDown. And like this has been an issue over the past week or so as well because of the Queen of the Ring tournament that's going on, as well as the King of the Ring. And basically all of these matches have only been getting like less than 2 minutes of TV time, which, it doesn't exactly make the tournament feel competitive or important when that's happening. And it's hard to care about the competitors as well when they're not getting TV time and getting a chance to shine either. So this is just a problem with WWE in general, really. Like after years of with the last few years of them, putting a good onus on a lot of the women's division, like there's been a bit of a step back now. And if your name isn't Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks or Bayley, then pretty much you're gonna be sort of not the star of the show, and you kind of have to take your spots where you can get them.
Right, but like you said, there's only so many spots in the women's divisions, and I agree with you. But let's break it down. Let's be smart about this. There's 2 different brands, so there's 2 different championships, which means there's 2 different divisions. And how many women do you need to work a good division? 6 or 8? Should we say 6 for the sake of argument? Let's say 6. So 6 on each show is 12 women, right?
Yeah.
So let's say Becky Lynch on one show, Charlotte on the other show, right? So we need 5 other women for each of those shows. You could easily pick 5 women, and one of them sure as fuck is going to be Rhea Ripley, right? One of them sure as fuck is going to be Shayna Baszler.
Yeah.
Right? You could say Alexa Bliss, Bayley whenever she is back from injury, same with Asuka when she's back from injury, and Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair.
Yeah.
Right? That we've still got plenty of spots left over. Right? But Natalia, say. And
Liv Morgan, or
let's use Liv Morgan's a good kind of underdog face to put in there because the other ones are all pretty well established. Liv Morgan's a perfect kind of person. And say Carmella for the hell of it. And Alexa Bliss when she's back as well, right?
I think you did say it already, but yeah.
Let's say her again.
Yeah.
Sans puppets, of course.
Yes.
No
yes.
puppets. Now that still leaves a handful of people left over. I don't know why they cut out Tamina and Nia Jax as a tag team. Possibly because they're both useless. But like that makes sense as a tag team. They look like a tag team.
Mm.
That's a heavy muscle you want as a tag team. That could work. They already split up Eva Marie and Doudrop for some reason, which was questionable at best to begin with.
Yeah.
But at least that was like a coupling, and you could make that work.
And
right?
it's introduced Doudrop to the main roster, and she seems to be doing pretty well for herself so far as well. So that's good to see.
Yeah, but why not introduce her as properly as a tag team, and then since they're determined to split up every single fucking tag team they have, why not introduce them as a tag team for longer than 2 weeks, establish them for a little bit, and then do the old Eva Marie pushed her luck too much, and then Doudrop beats her up and becomes a face. There's mileage there to get Doudrop over with the audience, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And then that way you've got a tag team, which your tag team division sorely needs. You know what I mean? Like, then you can just put the other women in tag teams. I thought they were doing something with Carmella and Zelina Vega, which again, I wouldn't have done that. But if you've got enough women in your women's divisions, there's gonna be women left over to fit those tag teams, right?
Yeah.
For the women's tag teams divisions. But if you split up your tag teams every couple of months, then one division is getting too bloated and the other division isn't getting enough attention to it. You need to stick with it. You need to have actual tag teams for them to pivot around, right? Because if you look at the women's divisions and look at the linchpins of those as the four horsewomen, say, at least there are linchpins in that division for the other women to work around. In the women's tag team division, if there are no tag teams to begin with, there's nothing to work around. There's no main tag team to be the focus of it for the other teams to work around. People used to slag off the old WWE tag team division. And I'm like, well, at least then there were linchpins. You had the New Day and the Usos that could hold it together. And you could experiment with other tag teams as you saw fit. But if you get rid of those, if you get rid of the established tag teams and just have a revolving door of just two people teaming together, it loses focus and it's not as much fun. It's not really about tag teams. It's just about, it's the odd couple again, right? And how many times
I wonder how this is going to go.
Oh, yeah. What's going to happen with Randy Orton and Riddle? What could possibly happen?
Could possibly go wrong.
Yeah, I bet they're going to be friends forever. A guy like Randy Orton who's never turned on anybody, especially former tag team partners. They've done this angle already with Randy Orton. Like, nope, let's do it again. And again, like, I think Orton and Riddle are two good guys to do it with.
And they're entertaining together, and like it's clearly invested in the crowd as well. So they are on the right track there. But like you say, it's happened before. It'll probably happen again. So
yes, it'll happen again this year.
Yeah,
it's happening with the women's division. It's just two people get thrown together and they don't like each other, and then blah blah blah, and that's just, isn't that kind of the angle with I'm not quite sure what's going on with Nikki and Rhea Ripley, but like there's got to be some kind of odd couple dynamic going on there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I really wouldn't be surprised if Rhea Ripley turns on Nikki ASH at some point.
Right, and again, that would make sense. Rhea Ripley's fucking badass. That makes sense for her to do something like that. But it's like I thought the reason that Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax were the tag team champions for so long is because they didn't have any other tag teams to replace them. They were kind of stop-holder tag teams. And if you look at every tag team champion since then, it's just been placeholder champions.
Yeah.
Asuka and Charlotte Flair were champions for a little bit till Shayna and Nia won the belts back. Natalya and Tamina was just a thrown together tag team. Nikki and Rhea Ripley is a thrown together tag team. They're all placeholder tag teams. And we're waiting for the new team to come along. They're not building it. They're not giving us a new tag team. They're just throwing together people and then splitting them up again. for no reason. And again, some of the other times there's been storylines that come out of that shit. But when the draft comes along and they just split teams up, there's no storyline. That shit just ends. That's just the end of it. You know, you don't even get the mileage of a storyline coming out of it. You just get two people on different brands now, so you can't go any further with a storyline like that. And it makes you wonder, what's the point?
Yep.
That shit's very frustrating to me. The constant neglect of that tag team division. The fact that they can just throw together tag teams and then also just split them up for no reason.
I think there's like an inconsistency as well when it comes to the draft, because you have some of these teams getting broken up, but then you have other teams drafted as a team.
Yes,
to a certain show. Yeah, so it's like, well, how did that happen then? How come they get to pick the team, but the other guy decided, I'll just take this guy from the team instead?
Which again shows you that they don't value these thrown together tag teams as actual tag teams.
Mm-hmm.
If they can just pick one of the people out of the team, then you're like, well, it's not a team.
Yeah.
Which negates the point of it. It's such a weird. For the most part, I think the WWE have a great women's division. They have some great women on their roster, but their women's tag team division is shocking.
It always has been, and I kind of think that they made a mistake making those titles in the first place, because while it does give the women something else to fight for aside from their respective brands' titles, it just never gets any focus really, and like you say, it's also thrown together that it's hard for people to care about it really. So yeah, it's like a strange division that I don't see this like pattern breaking anytime soon. It'll just continue to be a random thrown together team after another, winning those titles and passing them back and forth, and nothing changing, nothing improving.
I am inclined to agree. I feel like they've got to the point now where they're like, well, like you said, it's just something for the women to do. You know, they don't have to fix it, because in their head it doesn't need fixing. It's just something for the women to do. And you're like, well, doesn't that sound like a prestigious belt you'd want to win?
Yeah.
Oh, just something for them to do, Well, who do you think is going to be the women's tag team champions by the end of the year? Because it could be anybody.
Yeah, I mean, let's say Liv Morgan and Tegan Knox.
Right? I think Liv Morgan's a good shot, because they seem like they want to do something with her.
But they keep pulling back right when they seem poised to do something. That's the thing I don't understand.
But that's because I don't think they're ready to give her like a championship run. Right? I don't see her working angles with Charlotte Flair or Becky Lynch right now, right? Because she's still pretty young. And
but she's been on the show for a good few years now, and she keeps getting these flourishes where she gets the crowd behind her and buying into her story and stuff, and then she keeps getting the rug pulled out from under her.
Do you know what would have been really good? And this is just me spitballing here, but hey, wouldn't it have been really good if Liv Morgan had some kind of tag team?
That would be perfect, yeah.
If she was
an established tag team, yeah.
Yes, if she was in an established tag team with an established like women's wrestler, and they were tag teaming together for a while, you know that a team is legit when they have their own name.
Yes.
Because all the teams we've mentioned so far haven't had their own name, right? Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax, as a team, they were just called Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax, right? But Asuka and Kairi Sane were the Kabuki Warriors, right?
Yeah.
They were a tag team. They had a name, So if only Liv Morgan had a tag team partner. The Iconics, right? They were a tag team because they had a name. But unfortunately, Liv Morgan just doesn't have a tag team partner that she's been teaming with for years that would be established, or like a name for the tag team or anything like that. So that's a shame.
Oh, well.
Nothing we could do about that. Notice again, of course, that the tag teams I just mentioned with names no longer exist in the WWE.
Yeah.
Also very, very important. Oh boy. Oh boy. You know, my goodness. Liv Morgan's, is she on SmackDown?
Liv Morgan's been moved to Raw now.
I was going to guess Liv Morgan a Doudrop.
Yeah?
Yeah, just for the hell of it.
Why not?
Right. Exactly. Fucking why not? Everyone gets a shot out of them. Everyone gets a women's tag team title.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Even Tamina Snuka. My goodness. Goodness gracious me. I had this idea ages ago of like, wouldn't it be a really good angle to have like Natalya and Beth Phoenix hold those belts? Because they used to be a tag team way before belts being like Beth Phoenix is kind of around. Like, I know she's retired, but like as like one of those feel good like WrestleMania moments they always talk about.
Yeah, didn't they actually challenge for the titles at WrestleMania?
Right. Wouldn't that have made sense to just give them a little title reign, an established title or established tag team? And, you know, two legit women who totally deserve those belts, and, you know, then build it up to whoever beats them looks good because Natalya and Beth Phoenix are fucking monsters, right?
Yeah.
Right. Let's not do that at all. let's just do some other total bullshit.
Yeah.
That's the way that WWE operates. It's mystifying sometimes, isn't it?
Yep.
So that's something that the draft brought us, is some tag team splitting. But like you said, the other tag teams not splitting.
There's been a lot of tag teams that are still together, and like, you know, the Dirty Dogs of Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler. You got.
When was the last time they were on TV?
Well, yeah, it's been a while.
That's ridiculous.
You got the Alpha Academy, Otis and Chad Gable still together.
When was the last time they were on TV?
I mean, I'm pretty sure they keep popping up fairly regularly.
Okay. What is that better than the other tag team that both of those guys were in?
Well, probably not, but hey-o.
Here it is.
But you still got like the Street Profits together. You got the New Day. You got the Viking Raiders, the Usos.
I forgot about the Viking Raiders.
I think most people have.
Why are they not putting them on TV?
Well, who knows? I guess they don't have the look that Vince wants.
Well, you know, there's only so many hours in the day. You know, there's only so much time. They only have 8 hours of fucking TV a week. Are they gonna find time to put on established tag teams in the tag team division? It's not gonna work. Oh, with the Hurt Business came back.
Yeah.
So that's good. We still got those guys again, kind of, even though they split up for no reason. But now they're back for no reason. So that's good. Happy about that. I mean, I'm happy about that because those guys are good.
Seems like we're heading for a split between Rey Mysterio and his son Dominic, though.
But that's a team I don't think really should have been a team. I was just not sold on. I get why they were teaming together, because Dominic needed work.
Yeah.
And you know, I guess he's got better, but I still don't see him as like a singles guy.
No, I think he needs a lot more work, to be honest. I think they've done the right thing by having him team with his dad and getting all this experience, but at the moment it doesn't look like it's paying off quickly enough. Which I don't mean no disrespect to Dominic whatsoever, because he's kind of been thrown in at the deep end and everything, like bypassing NXT and just being brought straight up onto the main roster. But you know, he's had some good matches as well, so I take nothing away from him, but like it feels like he's stagnated a little bit. Like he hasn't really been progressing as much and looking as natural in the ring as his dad at, you know, his age. So yeah, you know, I think there's still work to be done there. Yeah,
yep, I would agree. A lot of work there, but like you said, I wouldn't have put him straight away into these storylines. But they love doing that. They just love fucking making people sink or swim. on live television.
Yeah, it's like the WWE, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's, you know, AEW do that too. They just get a bunch of guys who nobody's heard of and just stick them on TV and just go, well, figure it out. I'm like, is this really the best way for people to do business? It seems ass backwards to me, but what do we know? You know, evidently nothing. Although I dispute that. I feel like we gotta know something about this shit.
I've been watching it long enough. Jeez.
Yeah, you know, I don't see how Tony Khan is more qualified for this shit than we are. We both have the exact same qualifications. We've both watched wrestling for a long time. That's it, right?
Yeah, there's no other difference between the two of you.
Well, you know, but I mean, like, when it comes to being qualified to book a wrestling company,
yeah,
pretty much the same difference. Yes, he's got a little bit more money than I do, but almost everybody else in the world has more money than I do. I don't think that's a qualifier. You know what I think is really weird? This is a little sidebar, but I think this is super weird, right? Everybody's like, Vince McMahon's an evil old billionaire. He made his billions through the wrestling company, and now he runs a wrestling company. He's an evil billionaire. And then they go, Tony Khan is a great billionaire. He didn't make his money at all.
No, he just inherited it.
He doesn't have years and years and years of experience in the wrestling business. He's the good billionaire. Like, what? Why do we trust one of these guys and not the other one? What, like, you know, say what you want about Vince McMahon, but not only did he work for that, and I don't think anybody earns £1 billion, right?
No, not without stepping on a lot of people.
Yes, it's not physically possible to work enough to earn billions of dollars, right? But at the same time, he made his money in the wrestling business for a long time. That's what he did. That's what he does. That's what he has been doing for a long time. Tony Khan hasn't done that. He hasn't done anything, and he has way more money than Vince McMahon, and people trust him to run a wrestling company more than Vince McMahon. Like, how does that work? That's bizarre.
Yeah.
Which is why I say I'm as equally as qualified as Tony Khan is. Right? I've never run a wrestling company either. How hard can it be? But anyway, talk about the draft here. That's the thing about the draft, is that a lot of it just seems so inconsequential.
Yes.
You know, like the tag teams getting split up. Well, they'll just be replaced with different tag teams that will cobble together later. Although, like you said, most of the male tag teams got off with lightly.
Yeah. I think there was some plans or tentative plans to split up AJ Styles and Omos, but then people were kind of like, hang on, I don't think Omos is quite ready for a singles run yet.
What the fuck would he do?
Yeah. And I think there was plans for the Street Profits to get split up as well. Well, I think Montez Ford especially would probably thrive as a singles guy, but I think there's still a lot of value in them as a team, or potential value in them as a team anyway. So,
yes,
you know, it doesn't seem like a smart move to be splitting them up just yet.
No, I agree with that, in that he would definitely do pretty well, or well, he could. He has all the talent. He has all the capabilities to do good. Whether or not that company lets him do good is another story. He could do good as a solo guy, but I think there's way more mileage in them as a tag team. Yeah. Like, one of the problems WWE has is just jumping the gun on splitting up teams. You know, you don't have to do it for the sake of doing it. You know, like, only do it if you have a plan, which they never do.
Yeah, this is true.
They never do, but, you know, there's no point in splitting them up. Like, what do you call them? Heavy Machinery. Like, there was no plan there. They split them up, and then nothing good came from that split for either guy.
Yeah.
So what's the point? They had loads of mileage as a tag team.
They hadn't even scratched the surface with them as a team.
They could have done some great stuff. And I don't know why they split that team up. That was so stupid.
Yeah.
You know, ridiculous. But yeah, I I think the Street Profits staying together is a smart move. So I think they still might. And dude, as we say this, good lord, they're probably splitting them up already.
Yeah.
You know, but
Mm.
AJ Styles Omos thing, you're like, what's he gonna do? You know, AJ Styles will be fine. He'll be right as rain. But Omos, like, what's that guy gonna do by himself? There's nothing he can do. It'll be like an Ezekiel Jackson thing all over again.
Yep.
Looks good, but then it goes nowhere. You know,
Give him a chance to, get a bit more seasoning in and some more experience, and then set him free and let him go off on his own and become like a big monster heel or whatever. But yeah,
but
not yet.
It's like a Dominic Mysterio thing with them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like an established guy looking after this green guy, and they don't have the other guy hasn't learned enough yet to be able to go off on his own.
Exactly. Yeah.
They still need to do a lot more work with those guys. And oh, dude, end of the year, Dominic Mysterio and Omos as tag champions. Oh
Wow.
boy, but yeah, put money on it.
Yeah.
Put your money on it. Or as the women's tag team champions, because you know what that company's like. Fuck it, who cares? So that's something to look forward to, people. But let me tell you this: a tag team that avoided the draft, avoided being split from the draft, was Ali and Mansoor, which I thought was a cool. I'm still annoyed to this day that they split up Retribution without actually doing anything with them. I'm still salty about this. I'm like, God, that could have been cool, and they didn't do anything with it. But nothing I can do about that. Just have to live my life. And then this tag team between Ali and Mansoor came about, and you're like, okay, there's some mileage here. They need fresh tag teams. This is a good way to use Ali, who's a super underrated fucking, or underutilized, I should say. He's not underrated. People rate him highly. They just don't fucking use him.
Yeah.
He's underutilized, and he needs to be on TV more, right? And it's a good way, as we've established with those other tag teams, with a guy like Mansoor, who we're not sure. He can talk. He's charismatic.
Definitely.
I have no idea if he's a good wrestler or not. But sticking with Ali, give it some months, you can work something out there. They could be a really good tag team, right? It's a good way to use somebody who needs to be used and to get Mansoor like some more TV time and to get used to everything. That seems like a slam dunk. And with this fucking crown jewel thing that they're goddamn determined to do. Good lord, they're like, we gotta do it just as soon as the pandemic is over. Get in, I gotta get into Saudi Arabia. That blood money is not gonna be around forever. But like, wouldn't it have just been a fucking slam dunk of an idea to have Ali and Mansoor fight the tag champions at that pay-per-view?
Only if they're gonna win the tag team titles, though, because they fought and lost. It's like, oh well, why'd they do that then?
But why wouldn't that be a good time for them to do it?
Yeah, well, they might have other plans for the tag team titles because they're still doing all this RK Bro and AJ Styles and Omos feud as well. So,
but where's the harm in like the quick title change like we were talking about, right?
Yeah.
Say they won the titles at that Crown Jewel event, but they still have plans for RK Bro, right? So they win the titles back, but the split's still gonna happen. So later on down the line, Mansoor and Ali fight them again, and that's when the split happens.
Yeah, it would give them more reason to split because they'd lost the tag team titles, and then Ali could blame Mansoor for losing the titles and blah blah blah.
Right. There's angles to be done there. You can make shit work, right? That works for either tag team if you want to split them. But instead, one of the teams that they didn't split up in the draft, Mansoor and Ali, just turned up on Raw, and then Ali attacked Mansoor and was like, fuck you. And then they split up.
Well, after losing to the Hurt Business.
Well, again, an established tag team who have already won the tag championships, right?
Yeah, but they've literally only just got back together, and I think this might have been their first match back together in
like months.
Yeah.
Right. Again, like it's the kind of story that would work if they put a little bit of time and effort into it.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't, and now we've got this to just set up this fucking match at Crown Jewel. Like, when is it? Next week?
October the 21st. So yeah, next week.
Right. So now they have a week to build up to this match. Like, they're not gonna do it.
Nope.
It's just a way for Mansoor to get an easy win on the Crown Jewel event.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, is that better than the tag team thing I suggested? I mean,
no.
You could probably, you don't have to do that. You could probably come up with a billion other much better, simpler ideas for Mansoor than to just stick him in a tag team and then split that tag team 3 weeks later. And then go a week before the fucking Saudi Arabia show. Like, wouldn't he be the first fucking guy you book for that show?
Exactly. Have a plan for him.
Right. Like, if you're going to Saudi Arabia, book that guy immediately. Figure out what you want to do with him. He's the fucking hometown hero.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like, no, we'll make him literally the last match we book on this show. Good God. Oh, I don't know, dude. Let me tell you this as well. Like, they're having 2 women's matches on that show.
Well, I think 3 or 4 technically, because there'll be no, it must be 2, yeah, because it's the finals, not the semi-finals.
Yeah.
So it'd be the finals of the Queen of the Ring and this SmackDown Women's Championship match.
Do you think that's gonna happen?
Yeah, I mean, you've kind of seen it like progress over the these Crown Jewel events, that like more and more stuff is being done with the women superstars over time. So like the first show, I'm pretty sure there wasn't a single woman at the show. Second show, they had like Renee Young doing the commentary or something, or at least they're doing interviews or something like that. But then they had the women's match with Natalia, the last one they did, I think it was. So now it seems like, it's a natural progression to have 2 of these women's matches. And I guess it's all about sort of gradually introducing that kind of concept to Saudi Arabia, which they weren't really accepting of to begin with. So they've had to take it slowly. But now they've kind of kicked down the door. Why not have 2 matches with women in it?
Because, well, I have no issue with there being 2 matches with women in it. But they are going to an entire country, where, people might have an issue. Like, one women's match they got away with on the show. Like, you know what I mean?
But they sort of celebrated that match as like a historic moment last time, where it was like breaking down barriers and stuff like that. So, those barriers could arguably be said to have been broken down now. So maybe it isn't as big a deal as it once was.
And there's no way they could put those barriers back up.
Wow.
Not a single way. I don't know, man. Like, this whole Saudi Arabia deal has been questionable at best, as we've covered before.
Yes, yeah.
On this show, tricky business, man. We'll see how that goes. Are you gonna watch it?
No, I still have no interest in supporting these Crown Jewel shows, and like the whole situation there with MBS being the guy behind it, and like it being a very shallow attempt to kind of try and become more like accepted in Western culture, and like paint themselves as good guys and stuff, when MBS is like a bit of a tyrant, really. And
he's a bit of a tyrant.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's not the kind of guy that you'd want to meet in a dark alley. Although you probably wouldn't meet him in a dark alley, because he'd send his thugs to meet you in a dark alley.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I can imagine that tyrant kind of guy just be like, yeah, I'll just hang out in this back alley right here. Probably got other stuff going on. But you're gonna miss a Mansoor match.
Yeah, I'll miss like a Hell in a Cell between Edge and Seth Rollins, and a no holds barred match between Bobby Lashley and Goldberg, and
Wow.
these King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring finals and all that jazz. But fuck it, like I'd rather miss those than like tangentially support these bullshit shows and everything they stand for.
Doesn't that feel like a slap in the face to those King of the Ring guys? Like the King of the Ring comes back and they're like, we're gonna have the finals Crown Jewel that a lot of people aren't gonna watch. And you're like, oh, son of a bitch.
Well, I guess they're stacking the cards so much that they're trying to get people to watch this one as much as possible. So it'll be interesting. I mean, we don't know what the ratings are for these kind of shows on the network and the Peacock app or whatever. So, we can't really tell how successful they've been. But they
don't have to be successful. They're already successful.
Yeah, exactly. They're raking in the money from it.
They've already got paid. I mean, it could be a fucking dog shit every time, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
Poor Xavier Woods in the King of the Ring, and no one's gonna watch it.
Well, they're never gonna give him the King of the Ring.
No, he's not. Anyway. He's not gonna win. There's no way he's gonna win.
No.
It's gonna be Baron Corbin again.
No, I think he's already out of the tournament, or he wasn't in it to begin with. So
hey, they'll find a way. They will find a way. So other than that, the draft, like, not a whole lot of shit happened. But like we said, because of the way that they do the drafts every year, so many people get drafted, and so many people get drafted to the same kind of shows that you don't really notice. It's like the same shit but on a different show, right?
Yeah.
Like Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair are feuding on SmackDown, but in a month's time they could be feuding on Raw.
Mm-hmm.
It's still them feuding. It's just a different TV show,
Yep.
So that's what the draft feels like to me. That and splitting up the women's tag teams, which is irritating. But like we said, they will fill those spots with two other women that aren't doing anything in a matter of months.
Yeah. It's just the way it goes.
Just the way it goes. Is there anything else you want to say about this magnificent draft?
Some interesting NXT call-ups. Like we mentioned, Hit Row, like the whole faction coming up. Austin Theory got broken away from the Way, and now he's on Raw and kind of getting established. Like I think this past week he even took a selfie with Big E, which hints that maybe he'll be like, stepping up to challenge for the WWE Championship.
Which would be ridiculous.
Well, it would, but I mean, like as a sort of cocky move to kind of, introduce him and get him into a storyline right off the bat, I wouldn't be averse to. But like Aaliyah has come up as well, Xia Li, Ridge Holland, and I think Mia Yim has officially been drafted as herself now to Raw as well. So
it'll be a couple of months before we see her then.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's the way Raw goes, really, isn't it? A lot of people get lost in the shuffle there.
Mia Yim and Liv Morgan.
There you go.
Yeah, that's your tag team.
Tag team of Invisible Women.
Yep. I mean, we're guessing here, but I feel like we're gonna end up pretty close to the mark.
Yeah.
There's some interesting call-ups there, but like Xia Li been split up with her shit. Mm-hmm. The one thing that this shows is that they don't give a shit about NXT at all.
Oh yeah, guaranteed.
It just stuff happens on NXT and they're like, whatever, come to Raw and SmackDown. And you're like, no, they're actually doing stuff on NXT. They're not going to do anything on Raw and SmackDown. We have done episodes in the past of people being called up from NXT with no build-up, no storyline, nothing. And look at every single one of them.
They just flounder on the main roster because they're not given a chance in hell.
Nope. I think the best one was Lacey Evans, and she got pregnant.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, that's a shame. People are I think they're better off in NXT.
Oh, yeah. You could have said that for the last 10 years or so, pretty much. Like, only a handful of guys have come up and actually made it, and all of those guys came up probably 5 years ago. So
Well, they could prove us wrong.
yeah, there's always time.
It's always time. Although I don't think they will. But we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. You never know. Anything else you want to say about the whole situation?
Nah,
We good?
I think we're good.
Sweet. Well, that's today's show. I hope you guys enjoyed it, talking about the draft and all of that fun stuff. We're gonna be back next week. Clearly not with anything to do with the Crown Jewel.
Nope.
No, sir. But we'll talk about something else. It'll be amazing. You want to stick around to hear that. It'll be a whole lot of fun. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tell all your friends. If you have any friends. If you don't have any friends, just tell, your parole officer or something. I don't know. Whoever you talk to, because they might like listening to the show. And that's it. So we're gonna wrap things up here, and we will see you again next week for another fun episode. So we'll see you then. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.